let me tell you something that will change the way you look at women forever. Approaching a girl is not about pickup lines. It's not about scripted compliments or flashy displays of confidence. It's about presence. It's about masculine energy. It's about the way you carry yourself before you even say a word. You want to know how to approach any girl easily, then become the kind of man she wants to be approached by. The truth is, most men try too hard. They enter a conversation with a hidden agenda. They want validation, they want approval. And women, they can feel that. The feminine is intuitive. She doesn't need you to speak. She reads your energy, she reads your body language, she reads your intention. A real woman is not attracted to a man who begs for attention. She is drawn to a man who gives off certainty, the kind of man who is calm in chaos, the kind of man who knows who he is, regardless of how she responds. So let's break it down. First, approach with respect, not desperation. When you walk up to her, you're not asking for approval. You're offering your energy. You're not trying to take something from her. You're seeing if she matches your standards too. That's the mindset shift. Second, don't overthink what to say. If you're in your head, you're already losing the connection. Speak from your heart. Comment on something real. Be observant. Be intentional. If you walk up to her and say something authentic, even if it's simple, it's 10 times more attractive than a recycled compliment. Third, master your body language. Your shoulders back, eye contact, steady voice, no fidgeting, no shrinking. Your body should speak before your words ever do. A grounded man doesn't need to prove himself. His posture says it all. And here's what most men don't realize. The most powerful way to attract a woman is through emotional intelligence. When you approach a woman, don't just throw words at her. Be attuned, listen, feel the moment. Ask yourself, is she open to this conversation? Is she comfortable? Are you being respectful of her space? That kind of awareness separates the boys from the men. You're not trying to manipulate her into liking you. You're giving her a glimpse of your world, your ambition, your standards, your peace, your direction, and seeing if she resonates with it. A high-value man is not afraid of rejection because he understands that rejection is not about him. He doesn't make it personal. He moves on with dignity. That's what makes him so magnetic. He doesn't chase, he attracts. Approaching a woman begins long before you ever take a step in her direction. It begins with the energy you carry within yourself. It begins with the unspoken truth that lingers in your eyes, your posture, your pace. Presence is not about being loud. It's about stepping into a space as if you are enough, without needing to take, without needing to convince, and without needing to perform. Most men have been conditioned to believe that they need to do something special to gain a woman's attention, that they need tricks, lines, or confidence boosters to be seen. And in that belief, they shift from presence to performance. They try to fill the silence with words. They try to impress rather than connect. And they start operating from a place of desperation instead of intention. What they don't realize is that desperation isn't always obvious in words. It leaks through the tone, through rushed breathing, through nervous glances, through trying too hard to make her smile. A woman can sense when a man is not in control of himself, and that instantly shifts the dynamic from attraction to avoidance. Presence, on the other hand, is magnetic. A man who carries presence doesn't just walk into a room, he enters. His energy arrives before his words. He doesn't need approval from anyone because he already holds it within himself. That's what makes him powerful. That's what makes him memorable. He's not chasing connection, he's offering it. And that shift changes everything. When a man approaches a woman from a place of presence, he's not walking over to get something. He's walking over to share something. He's not thinking, I hope she likes me. He's thinking, I'm curious if we vibe. That subtle difference in mindset removes pressure from the interaction. It transforms what could feel like a performance into something more real, more grounded. And that's exactly what a feminine woman responds to. She doesn't want to be impressed. She wants to be seen. She wants to feel safe. She wants to feel that the man before her is sure of himself, whether or not she gives him a favorable response. The man who operates from desperation gives away his power. He walks in apologetically, mentally seeking validation and reacting to every facial expression she gives. If she seems disinterested, he shrinks. If she smiles, he gets overly excited. His emotions rise and fall depending on her reaction, and that makes her feel like she holds all the power in the interaction. That's not attractive. That's pressure. And pressure repels the feminine. But when a man approaches with presence, he doesn't seek emotional highs or lows. He remains calm, centered, grounded. He's not thrown off by her mood because he knows who he is. He doesn't depend on her receptiveness to validate his worth. That's what draws her in, because now she's not just talking to a man, she's experiencing a masculine force, not loud, not aggressive, but firm, steady, unshakable. The truth is, presence can't be faked, it's cultivated. It comes from a man who has spent time understanding himself, from a man who has faced his insecurities rather than masking them. It comes from a man who has worked on his discipline, his body, his mind, a man who has looked in the mirror and decided to become his own source of confidence. That is presence, and women can feel it instantly. There's an unspoken difference between a man who is looking for attention and a man who commands it. The former tries to charm, the latter doesn't need to. The former waits for the perfect moment, the latter makes the moment feel perfect just by showing up in his power. Women are intuitive. They feel who you are beneath your words. They feel your self-pim in the way you look at them. If you walk up with neediness, they'll sense it. If you walk up with presence, they'll respect it, even if the conversation doesn't go anywhere. That's the beauty of this energy. You don't need to get every girl to like you. You only need to approach as the man who doesn't lose himself trying. That's what creates freedom. That's what builds attraction. Women are not drawn to a man who needs their attention to feel alive. They are drawn to the man who is fully alive before they even meet him. When you walk into a room with presence, people notice you without you needing to speak. Your silence holds weight. Your movements are intentional. Your gaze is steady. You're not scanning the room for validation. You're centered in yourself, grounded in your purpose. That's when women start looking at you. Not because you're performing, but because your energy stands out. That energy, that calm, confident presence is what makes approaching effortless. Because now you're not trying to break the ice. You are the warmth that melts it. The mistake most men make is believing that approaching a woman is all about technique. They think it's in the lines they say, the way they smile, the compliments they give, but it's not. It's in the energy they carry when they say it. You can say the simplest thing, even just a hey, and if it's said from a place of grounded masculine presence, it'll have more impact than 100 rehearsed compliments. Presence makes a woman feel safe. It allows her to drop her guard. And in a world where most men are trying to impress her, the man who simply sees her stands out. He doesn't need to take up space. He creates it. Space for real connection, space for honest conversation, space where both can just be without pressure. That space is rare, and that's why it's so attractive. When you operate from desperation, you're stepping into her world, asking to be chosen. When you operate from presence, you're inviting her into yours. One comes from lack, the other from abundance. One drains the room, the other shifts the atmosphere. There is something deeply masculine about a man who knows how to hold his ground, a man who doesn't seek to impress, but to connect, who listens more than he speaks, who approaches not with arrogance, but with authenticity. That man doesn't need to play games. His truth is the game, and she either resonates with it or she doesn't, but he never bends to win, because presence is power and power doesn't beg. If you're constantly thinking about how to impress a woman, you're already in your head. And when you're in your head, you're not in the moment. And if you're not in the moment, she's not in it with you. Presence is about feeling the now. It's about allowing silence when it's needed. It's about being okay with pauses. A man with presence doesn't rush. He doesn't fill gaps nervously. He leans into the moment. He makes her feel seen just by being fully here. Desperation comes from a fear of rejection. Presence comes from the acceptance of self. And that's the real game changer, because once you've accepted yourself, your flaws, your growth, your worth, rejection doesn't break you anymore. You're not there to impress every woman. You're there to align with the one who feels your essence and values your vision. Approaching with presence is not about outcome. It's about alignment. It's about recognizing that your time, your energy, your attention are valuable, and not every woman gets access to them. You are not trying to prove yourself. You're offering your presence as a gift, one she can either receive or walk away from. And either way, you remain whole. Presence doesn't chase, presence doesn't panic, presence doesn't pretend. It stands, it holds, it offers, and it allows. And that is what makes a woman stop. Not your lines, not your looks, but the way she feels when you look at her. Not with hunger, but with calm clarity. Not with need, but with quiet knowing. You want to approach any woman easily? Then don't learn more lines. Learn how to be still within yourself. Learn how to walk into a space with intention. Learn how to listen more deeply. Learn how to make your silence say more than your words ever could. Emotional intelligence is a concept that has been spoken about in countless self-help books, motivational talks, and leadership seminars, yet many still fail to realize its true power. Emotional intelligence isn't about how well you can manipulate or control situations. It's not about being able to read someone's emotions to gain an advantage. True emotional intelligence is the ability to be deeply attuned to your own emotions and the emotions of others, and to navigate life in a way that honors both. It's about understanding not just what's happening in the moment, but why it's happening, and how to respond in a way that builds connections, resolves conflicts, and fosters trust. When it comes to connecting with a woman, emotional intelligence is the game changer. It's not about memorized lines or rehearsed strategies. It's about understanding her energy, your own energy, and how they interact in a way that fosters genuine connection. The truth is, emotional intelligence is often the difference between fleeting attraction and lasting connection. A man who lacks emotional intelligence might impress a woman with his looks or his charm for a short while, but it's his emotional intelligence that determines whether that initial attraction deepens into something real. Women, like all people, are drawn to those who can make them feel understood, safe, and respected. It's not the words that you say that matter most. It's the feelings that you evoke in her when you speak. If you can meet her where she is emotionally, you're already ahead of the game. But this requires a level of self-awareness and self-control that many fail to cultivate. At the core of emotional intelligence is the ability to regulate your own emotions. When you're in control of your emotions, you don't react impulsively. You don't let frustration, insecurity, or ego cloud your judgment. Instead, you respond with intention. When you approach a woman, especially in a setting where there might be some tension or uncertainty, emotional intelligence allows you to keep calm. It gives you the ability to read the room, assess her mood, and respond in a way that puts her at ease. If she's feeling nervous, you can offer reassurance. If she's feeling guarded, you can create space for her to feel safe. If she's feeling closed off, you can gently lead her to open up without forcing it. Emotional intelligence is all about recognizing the emotional landscape of the moment and adjusting your approach accordingly. One of the most important aspects of emotional intelligence is empathy. Empathy allows you to truly understand what someone else is feeling. It's not just about listening to their words, but tuning in to the subtle cues, the body language, the tone of their voice, the expressions on their face, and connecting those with their emotions. Women are incredibly perceptive when it comes to reading emotional cues, and they can tell when a man is genuinely attuned to her feelings versus when he's simply saying what he thinks she wants to hear. When you can meet her where she is emotionally, when you can listen to her words and also feel her heart, you immediately differentiate yourself from the countless men who are simply going through the motions of an interaction without truly connecting. When you approach a woman with emotional intelligence, you're not forcing her to conform to your expectations. You're listening to her, understanding her, and allowing the interaction to unfold naturally. Women don't want to feel like they're being controlled or manipulated. They want to feel like they're being seen, heard, and valued for who they are. Emotional intelligence allows you to do that effortlessly. It helps you meet her where she is rather than trying to pull her into your world. It helps you recognize when she's uncomfortable, when she's interested, when she's skeptical, and when she's fully engaged. And most importantly, it gives you the ability to respond in a way that creates a safe, trusting environment where a genuine connection can blossom. Another key component of emotional intelligence is emotional resilience. Life is full of ups and downs, and relationships are no different, but a man who is emotionally intelligent is able to bounce back from setbacks with grace and poise. He doesn't let rejection or failure define him. Instead, he learns from the experience, adjusts his approach, and keeps moving forward. Emotional resilience is important because it allows you to stay focused on the long-term goal of building a meaningful connection rather than getting caught up in the immediate setbacks of one conversation or one encounter. If you're rejected, you don't take it personally. You don't make it mean something about your worth. You simply acknowledge the disappointment, learn from it, and move on. This level of emotional maturity is magnetic because it shows that you are a man who can handle life's challenges with dignity and strength. Emotional intelligence is also about conflict resolution. In any relationship, whether it's a romantic one or otherwise, there will be moments of tension and disagreement. How you handle these moments can make or break the relationship. A man with emotional intelligence doesn't escalate conflict or become defensive when things get tough. Instead, he listens, validates her feelings, and seeks to understand the root cause of the conflict. He doesn't react impulsively or try to win the argument. He seeks resolution and harmony, and he does so in a way that maintains respect and trust. This ability to manage conflict with maturity and grace is incredibly attractive because it shows that you're not just looking for a superficial connection, you're invested in building something real, something long-lasting, and something built on mutual understanding. Ultimately, emotional intelligence is the real game because it goes beyond surface level attraction. It's not about how good you look, how charming you are, or how well you can mimic the behaviors of others. It's about how you make her feel. It's about how you navigate life with emotional maturity and how you show up as a man who is grounded, self-aware, and emotionally attuned to both himself and others. Emotional intelligence is the key to building lasting, meaningful connections with women because it allows you to create a space where trust, respect, and understanding can flourish. When you bring this level of emotional awareness and self-control to your interactions, you open the door to deeper connections, greater intimacy, and a more fulfilling, authentic relationship. There's something deeply attractive about a man who is unapologetically himself, a man who doesn't hide behind rehearsed words or polished charm, a man who speaks from where he is, not from where he thinks he should be. Women don't want to be swept off their feet by clever scripts. They want to feel you. They want to hear your truth. They want to meet the man behind the performance, not the character you think they'll like more. The truth is, most men are afraid to show up as they really are, not because they lack value, but because they've been taught that their value isn't enough on its own. So they borrow words, they memorize lines, they construct identities they think are more impressive than their reality. But when you approach a woman using a version of yourself that isn't real, you're not creating connection, you're creating illusion. And illusions fade quickly. Authenticity is rarer, and that's why it's powerful. In a world of filters, scripts, and surface-level attraction, the man who shows up raw, honest, and unrehearsed is unforgettable. He might not have the smoothest words. He might not say the perfect thing, but the energy behind his words, that's what she remembers. Because energy doesn't lie. You can fake lines, but you can't fake frequency. You can borrow someone's sentence, but you can't borrow someone's soul. And when you speak from your soul, even if it's awkward or simple, it resonates. A woman doesn't connect with what you say, she connects with why you said it, what space it came from, what emotion it carried. Was it curiosity? Was it genuine interest? Was it a moment of courage, or was it manipulation wearing a mask of confidence? Women pick up on that, not always consciously, but they feel it in their bodies. They feel it in how the conversation unfolds. When your words come from a place of performance, it feels like she's being pulled into it. But when your words come from presence, it feels like she's being invited into something real. That's what authenticity does. It invites. It doesn't force, it doesn't sell, it offers truth and lets her choose. And that freedom you give her, that's what makes her stay. Some men get so lost in what they think they're supposed to say that they completely disconnect from the moment. They're scanning their minds instead of the energy between them. They're focused on what should I say next instead of what am I actually feeling right now. And because they're in their head, they miss the opportunity to create something real. Attraction is not built in the mind, it's built in the moment. And that moment can't be accessed if you're performing instead of connecting. Authenticity means you don't need a script to be impactful. You don't need to be perfect to be captivating. You don't need to know all the right things to say. You just need to be real. Women are not looking for flawless. They're looking for honest. They're looking for depth, for consistency between what you say and what you mean, for congruence between your words and your energy. That's what creates emotional safety. And emotional safety is the foundation of attraction. The man who leans on scripted lines is hoping to bypass the vulnerability of being seen. But the man who leads with authenticity says, "This is me, take it or leave it." And that grounded self-respect is magnetic. It doesn't just attract, it inspires trust. And trust is the currency of meaningful connection. A scripted man tries to predict and control. An authentic man responds. He's flexible, aware, fluid. He's not trying to be interesting, he's interested. He's not pretending to understand, he's listening. And that attentiveness, that genuine curiosity makes a woman feel like she matters. Not as a target to be impressed, but as a human to be understood. If you really want to connect with a woman, stop trying to craft the perfect version of yourself. Let her meet the real you. Let her feel your intention. Let her see your flaws and your strength in the same breath. You don't need to hide behind smooth delivery. What matters more is your emotional tone. Are you being transparent? Are you being sincere? Are you being emotionally available? Or are you hiding behind humor, charm, or control? Most men have never been taught that vulnerability is attractive, but it is when it's rooted in self-awareness and strength, not oversharing, not emotional dumping, but the kind of vulnerability that says, I'm not here to impress you, I'm here to be real with you. That's refreshing. That's masculine. That's memorable. Women remember the way a man made them feel. Not the rehearsed words, not the performance, but the sense of comfort, presence, and honesty he brought into the space. A woman might smile at a charming line, but she opens up to a man who doesn't pretend to be more than he is. Because in that space, she can finally let her guard down too. And when you're authentic, you naturally filter out the people who aren't aligned with you. That's the beauty of it. You don't need to impress every woman. You only need to connect with the one who resonates with your truth. And if you're constantly trying to tailor your personality just to be liked, then you're not offering your truth, you're offering a mask. And every time she responds to that mask, a part of you knows it's not real. That's why so many men feel empty after what they thought was a successful approach. Because deep down, they know she didn't really see them. She saw a version of them built to impress, not connect. Real connection only happens when two people meet as they are, not as who they think the other person wants them to be. That takes courage, that takes emotional maturity, that takes inner work. But once you build that inner strength, once you get comfortable with your own truth, you'll never need another line again. Because now your truth is your introduction, your energy is your magnetism, and your presence becomes your most powerful tool. Authenticity isn't always easy. It requires self-trust. It requires you to be okay with being misunderstood. It requires you to risk not being liked by everyone, but being loved deeply by the right one. And that's a trade worth making, because the love built on truth lasts longer than any illusion built on charm.